Well, what do you guys about thought I would do a video today talking about my love of video games and talking about all the memories I have of playing video games as a kid. To be honest, my first console I ever had as a kid was the Xbox 360. Like, the memories I have of playing those games on that console is huge. I remember, that was the one thing I really wanted for my birthday that year, and I was 10 years old. And I was like, wow. And then, unfortunately, the day after I got my Xbox, the disc tray got jammed on it, but I think that was my fault because I think I kept kind of pushing the disc tray in too quickly, and that caused the disc tray to get jammed, of course. I think I also went through quite a fair few Xbox control pads because I kept dropping them on the floor, and dropping them on a hard floor, and would obviously very easily cause them to break. And obviously that I used to do that. Admittedly, I used to do that a lot. I used to drop the control pads on the floor. I broke one I had. I broke my uncle's control pads I was borrowing from him at one point as I lost. Well, I broke my other control pads. I had to borrow the one he had because he had an Xbox as well. So I was borrowing his control pad, and then I broke that one as well. So quite hilarious in a way that I ended up breaking that one. To break my other one and break his one. In terms of in terms of games, some of the games I enjoy playing on the Xbox 360, like the early Call of Duty games, like Black Ops 1 was quite fun. Black Ops 2 was pretty good. The thing is, this is the thing with the Xbox 360, some of the games on the Xbox 360 and PS3, like, they're just incredible, like, so it's the same with, like, the PS2 as well, like, there were some really, really incredible games for the PS2, like, I'm not gonna lie. I think one of my favourite games for the PS2 is Simpsons Hit and Run, without a doubt. I have a lot of memories of playing that game as a kid. I remember I was obsessed with that game as a kid, and I loved playing it. Like, I just spent so many, such a long time playing the game, and I loved every minute of it. Um, and it's just crazy. Like, obviously, I mean, I wasn't a part of the PS2 generation when it first came out, but I mean, like, the thing is, I love playing on the PS5, and obviously I've got three other consoles that I personally own as well: the PS4, Xbox 360, and PS2. So, return to the Xbox 360, I've started going back to 2023. And I had this desire, I really wanted to play some of the old Xbox games again, because I did like them. And I thought, they're really good, really, it'd be really fun to play. And I really wanted to play them again, because there were some games that I haven't played for quite a while. But yeah, having an Xbox 360, it's kind of like, it's not a bad thing, it's not the worst. The thing is with the Xbox, it's not the worst console in the world. Like, that's the thing, it's not fantastically bad. For the most part, it is actually pretty good. It's pretty good, when it comes to what, it's pretty good for the most part. Same with the PS2, like, I honestly, I'd like to know what your guys' opinions are on this, but I honestly think the PS2 still holds up pretty well in this day and age. I think, I don't think the PS2 is bad. I think the PS2 still holds up pretty well. In this day and age, I think it's not a terribly bad console. This day and age, it's still pretty good even now. And I'm amazed by how well it holds up. In this day and age, I think it holds up better than most consoles do, to be fairly honest. I think a lot of people these days may actually prefer the PS2 to the newer consoles. I think, for me, I do love the PS2. I think it's a very solid console. When I think about this past year and I think about the amount of money I've spent on eBay buying PS2 games, I don't even know how much money I've spent, but in a way I probably spent way too much money on video games from eBay, but I don't regret any of the purchases. I mean, when I think of eBay, the last year or so, in a way it's been, at times it's been a godsend. Because you're going to see it sometimes, and it's like you're looking for a particular game and you can't find it in there, but you go to eBay and always guarantee that there's probably quite a few sellers that are actually selling the game that you're looking for. So it's like when you actually find it on eBay, you're like, yes. And sometimes what's funny is I've actually found the games on eBay for cheaper than they would probably be in CEX. But then I found that at times I found it to be the opposite as well. Like sometimes I found the games to actually be cheaper on the CEX website than they would be on eBay, most likely. I mean, in fact, I've just ordered another 2 games today, which are due to arrive between next Tuesday and Saturday. So the 14th, it says 14th to the 18th, which is Tuesday to Saturday, I believe. If it was the 13th to the 15th, that would be Monday to Friday. But it's from 14th to 18th, so it's Tuesday to Saturday. Hopefully, well, I'm not saying it won't turn up, but I mean, most of the sellers I bought from on eBay are pretty reliable, to be honest. So I can't see me having problems with this one though. I mean, I can't wait to the 2 games I ordered today were the first SmackDown game and SmackDown 2 Know Your Role. There was someone actually selling both games on eBay together for 20 quid. I did say 200 quid by mistake. They were selling them for 20 quid. So not bad the fact that someone's selling 2 PS1 games for 20 quid. There was someone also the other day I bought these 4 games. They were selling 4 basically brand new sealed copies of the 4 PS2 Ratchet and Clank games, and they wanted £77 plus free postage. So £77 for 4 games that are new and sealed. I'm not gonna turn that down. I mean, eBay, I don't think it's a bad site, to be honest, for video games. I've had a lot of luck on there. I've only ever had one instance where I've ordered from eBay and not actually gotten what it was that I paid for. But most of the stuff I've ordered from eBay has been delivered when I've ordered it. So, I mean, the thing is when I paid for that item that I ordered and I didn't get it, I wasn't massively pissed off for it, because it wasn't something that I'd paid a lot of money for. So it wasn't like I'd lost a shite ton of money from that person from not having received that item that I'd actually paid for. I'd lost less than 10 quid, so it wasn't that big a deal. If it had been something like 40, 50 quid, something like that, I would have been quite pissed off about that, because that's a lot of money to lose. But it was literally a game that was less than 10 quid, so I wasn't losing that much money from not having received that game, so it wasn't that big a deal, in fairness. But, I mean, obviously, in terms of video games, for me as a kid, I was always coming home every day, turning my Xbox on. I remember when I was a kid, I always used to get really pissed off, because my Xbox always used to keep overheating, and I just have to leave it for 2 hours, let it cool down, and then go back, and I was like, oh, for God's sake. But, yeah, I mean, it wasn't all bad. I remember I always used to have to do my homework first before I actually play my games, my video games, and Mum was like, oh, you always got to do, you have to do your homework. So I had to do that before I play my video games. I mean, for me back then, I wasn't, I was a 10-year-old kid, so yeah, I mean, I was happy to have an Xbox, but I wasn't really that into video games, to be fairly honest. So when I went to, obviously it was when the PS4 came out, the Xbox One originally, when I saw them in the shops, and when I was up Stratford and I'd seen them in the shops, I decided that I wanted the Xbox One. That is why I was on the go for. You know, I had no intention of going for the PS4 because I'd had the Xbox 360, so it had have made more sense for me to go from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. But then my mum was speaking to one of my teachers at school, and that teacher had actually bought an Xbox One, and they were having a few problems with it. And obviously, when my mum heard about these problems that the Xbox One was having, it put her off. Basically, I think if I remember at the time, there was a problem with the Xbox One where certain games weren't playing on it for some reason. And that obviously when my mum heard about this issue, she was like, she spoke to me after school. She said, "I think you should go for the PS4. It would probably be safer." So that's what I did. So I went for the PS4 instead. And it was funny with the PS5 because I remember when the PS5 came out, I told my mum about it, my mum and my dad about the PS5. Now, I didn't think they would buy it because I honestly thought they would say, "No, you're not having it. It's too expensive." But they still went out and bought it. And I remember my mum did so well. She was like on the sites every single day trying to get one. You know, she was signed up to like the updates and everything. So when more stock was going live, she was getting the updates. So yeah, I mean, she managed to get one. And then we had this panic attack thinking it wasn't going to turn up as it arrived 2 days later than it was supposed to. And obviously I had that console up until earlier on in the year, and then one night, last year it was, during the summer I was playing on the PS5, and it just shut off, like it wouldn't come back on. I had that issue before where it just shut off randomly, but it had come back on after about sort of 10 minutes or so, it came back up. But this time when it shut off, it wouldn't come back on. And we tried everything to get it to come back on. And then I got it to the point where the console was actually coming on and the white light was showing on the console. But nothing was showing on my TV screen. And when I say we tried everything we tried everything we possibly could do to fix the PS5, to fix the PlayStation, but it wasn't having it. It was done basically. So I now have the PS5 Slim with a disc tray, and that's handy for me because it means I can now play more of my PS4 games on the PS5, which is a win-win. I mean, obviously I do like the PS5. I don't know what my favourite console is. It's hard to choose. I think the problem is like each console has its own individual qualities. It has its own kind of special thing that makes it so good. You know, and it's so hard to choose which one I like the best. So, they all have great games, and, I think for me, if I had to choose one, I think it would be the PS5. I was thinking about the graphics on the PS5, and I was thinking, how would the graphics be? Video game graphics possibly be any more realistic than they are on this current generation of consoles? Like, is there actually a way they could make the graphics way more realistic, or like more realistic than they currently are on like the PS5s and that? I don't think they possibly could. Like, I'm not saying the PS5s and the PS5 and Xbox Series X's and all that are not revolutionary, as in a way they are. I mean, like, how do you not love the PS5? You gotta love the PS5. So, it's one of the best consoles I've ever played. But I think for me, like, I still have a lot of love for the Xbox 360. Like, some people probably be thinking, oh, like, why did you go out and buy an Xbox 360 or a PS2 when you have a PS5? And it's like, I guess I just wanted to feel that nostalgia. But that's the thing, like, when I play the games on the Xbox 360 and on the PlayStation 2, I always get that huge feeling of nostalgia. Like, obviously, you know, and not, you know, this is the thing with me. I do love that feeling of nostalgia you get when you play the old games. Like, some of them were so damn good. And I feel like some of the games that released years ago are actually better in a way than some of the games we actually have out there today. You know, I feel like some of the games we have out there today are honestly not that good not as good as some of the video games that were actually released years ago. Maybe I might sound a little bit harsh, and I'm not saying that all of the video games that come out that are being released these days are actually terribly bad. They're not really terribly bad, but you know, I just think that some of the games on the old consoles that were released back in the day are actually better. You know, I was playing the other day on the PS2. I was playing SmackDown, SmackDown Just Bring It, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, and SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. I can see that a lot of people would have had problems with the SmackDown Shut Your Mouth game. Oh, Tommy, what are you playing? Shut your mouth. I beg your pardon. Oh, you mean SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. Funny. A little joke there, wasn't it? Little gag. But I was actually playing those 3 games earlier, and I just thought to myself, like, blimey, those 3 games were so much better than any of the 2K games. Like, that's how it honestly feels to me. I even feel like the SmackDown versus Raw games are actually better than the 2K games. Now, some of you die-hard 2K fans out there might be being a little bit harsh for saying that the SmackDown versus Raw games were actually better than what. I mean, even though, like, I think most of the games up until WWE 2K14 were actually really good. But the games that came out after that weren't as great. But I mean, if you're buying them on next gen, they weren't as great. But if you were buying games like 2K15, 16, 17 on the Xbox 360, you still have most of the modes and most of the stuff that wasn't available on next gen. It's like, you know, so I guess in a way, players that played on last gen would have had a better experience than those that played on next gen, although that those on next gen were able to play with better graphics. You know, there was still more to do on the older versions of the games than there were on like the next gen versions of the games, to be fairly honest. You know, I think, you know, it amazes me to think like how far we've come in terms of video games and video games consoles. Like, you know, so, you know, it's just crazy. Like, even now, like, when I think about where it could be in, like, 20, 30 years' time, like, what sort of video game consoles would we be seeing in, like, 20, 30 years' time? It's like, are they actually still going to be releasing new consoles in 20, 30 years' time? You know, I mean, I imagine, like, I feel like they will be. Like, I feel like in 20, 30 years' time, Sony and Microsoft will still be releasing new consoles. And I think, I mean, obviously, I'd be in my 50s by then, so I'd be, for me, 50, I think by then, if they were still releasing video games by then, like video games consoles by then, video games probably wouldn't be that exciting for me because I'm older, I'd be way older, but I think that's a good thing. It's like, when you're younger, I think, like, video games are more exciting, and they're more thrilling, and they're more interesting, and it's like you have more of a love for video games. But I feel like as you get older, you sort of start to lose that love and appreciation for video games. Like, maybe I am a little bit, harsh on that one, but I feel like, you do. I feel like as you get older, you start to lose that love and that kind of, you start to lose that love for the PS5, that love for, video games, and that kind of passion for video games that you once had. Like that love and that passion that you once had for video games, once upon a time, just isn't there anymore. It's unbelievable. But as I said, I'm very excited to see how things are going to go over the next few years in terms of video games and what they do. And, I mean, hey, if EA Sports still got to be releasing new games every, flipping 20, 30 years' time. I don't see that happening. I'd laugh if they were still releasing new 2K games, flipping 20, 30 years' time. And I'd be laughing if they were still releasing EAFC games in flipping 20, 30 years' time. Honestly, it's just crazy to think about what video games consoles would be like in 20, 30 years' time. Like, they're already pretty good now. So what are they going to be like in 20, 30 years' time? If they're still releasing them by then. Which, who knows, they probably could be. I think, some of those video games, there are some video games I've never had a lot of love for. I've never gotten into the Fallout series. I've never really gotten into Saints Row. But I think a lot of people are probably thinking, well, how the hell have you never gotten into Fallout and Saints Row? I don't know, but I just never got into them. I never really got into the Battlefield series. Like the only Battlefield game I've ever played is Battlefield Hardline. And that's the only Battlefield game I've ever actually played. I never really got into the Killzone series. Like, the Killzone series just never really that enticing for me. Like, I never really enjoyed the games as much that much, to be honest. Like, I think I only ever played Killzone again, but the only game I ever really played in the Killzone series was Killzone Shadowfall, and I only ever played that game like once or twice before I decided I wasn't, that keen on it. I'm not saying that Killzone Shadowfall wasn't a great game. It's just one that I never really got. It was just a series like the Killzone series was just one of those series that I never really got into. I think for a lot of reasons. I'm someone that is kind of more into games like Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, FIFA, 2K, wrestling, NBA 2K, F1. I buy the F1 games every year when they come out. I buy the NBA 2K games every year when they come out. I play those. I have a lot of love for the Watch Dogs series as well. Mafia, I'm into the Mafia games. I think for me, I love them more. I've never got into Just Cause. I played the Just Cause games, but I never really got into them. I think for me, I love the kind of more sort of open world, free roam style of games. Red Dead Redemption, I love playing those games. Because of their, they're like more sort of open world, free roam style of games, and that's what I like. I like the sort of open world, free roam style games where you can sort of explore the maps and just have a good time and do what you want to do. Without having to complete loads and loads of missions. But I'm not really into those video games where it's kind of like mission after mission after mission, and there's not really any kind of free roam, open world elements in the game. I much prefer those games that do have that kind of free roam sort of open world element to them. Some people might be vice versa. Some people might not be keen on the sort of open, on those games that kind of have that open world free roam style element. Maybe you guys have a different opinion on those. And I'm not saying you're not allowed to have that opinion, but I'm just saying that for me, those are the style of games that I prefer. I'm aware that Call of Duty isn't really a free roaming game, but I do love the Call of Duty series as a whole. I've always been a big fan of it. I think that's why I buy the Call of Duty games every year, because I love them so much. I'll also be buying GTA 6 if that comes out this year. Whether it does or not, I don't know. We've not seen a second trailer yet, and I think people start to get a little bit worried that, surely we should have seen a second trailer by now. Maybe that's an indication that it's not coming out this year. But I don't think that, the fact that we haven't seen a second trailer yet really means anything. I don't think that really necessarily means that the game has been delayed and it doesn't come out this year. But some people seem to think that it does. But I honestly don't think so. I think that this year things will be very different. I think maybe it will come out this year. But don't hold me to that. Obviously, I hope you've enjoyed this little video. And yeah, I'll see you when I want soon. Bye bye.